Hi everyone, long time no TBR. Hello my lovely friends, it's Margaret and welcome to my TBRathon, TBR. Before we get into the TBR, we do need to address the elephant in the room. I have not, number one, have not done a TBR in a very long time. And number two, this is not going to be a Fablen TBR because Fablen is currently, I won't say on hiatus, we'll say under construction. And you know how long construction can take in the United States of America. With the amount of time that I had to get those out, it just wasn't sustainable. So I'm gonna have to sit down and rework it and figure out a way to make it sustainable and make it something that does not take me 3 hours to film one video. We will get there. It's not happening in January of 2024 because I just want to post videos. If you do not know what TBRathon is, it is a readathon being put on by Leandra over at Leandra the TBR 0. She is trying to give us good TBR vibes for the beginning. Get everybody off to a good start. She has created this readathon where there are multiple different ways that you can participate. Really fun and unique and catered towards different kinds of readers. So I really appreciate all of the amazing work that Leandra has put into this. I'm gonna have her announcement video linked down below in the description box. So like I said, I'm doing this lovely board game version of this TBR. The prompts looked really nice, super simple, did not require a lot of me having to think. The less thinking that I have to do, the more I can do. 2023 was a year. There is a video coming out talking about some of that potentially. I did this a little weird. I didn't want to like print it out and make a board like I'm doing this last minute as I do everything. I went ahead and I used my good friend Canva to do what you were about to see next. I'm gonna let you guys go to past Margaret as she rolls each roll, and then we'll talk about the books that I am going to be reading. Welcome to the most ratchet portion of the video. I would love to have been able to like do a cute little animation thing for you guys, but I can't do that. So we are going to MacGyver this with a dice roller from Google and Canva. You can see I have really outdone myself with my animation skills. We have the lovely board game that Leandra came up with along with my little piece right here. We're gonna go all the way to the end and see if I can make it to the end of this game. Let's go ahead and see what our first roll is going to be. 3. Okay, so that puts us at Phone a Friend, which is a book recommendation. For roll number 1, I got Phone a Friend, and this is going to be kind of anticlimactic because, so it is a friend's recommendation, but I can't tell you what the book is yet because it is for a secret project. Let's go and see what roll number 2 is going to be. Roll number 2. This is going about as well as a game of D&D goes for me. Okay, so 5-star prediction. For roll number 2, I got a 5-star prediction. And so I went ahead, like I have been wanting to read this book. The book that I'm going to be going with is one that, like, it was one of my most anticipated releases of 2023. I bought it right away. I got the audiobook when it came out, and then I just never got around to it. We're not going to talk about it. 2023 was a year. You guys may remember that the first book in this series, I think it's a trilogy, made my favorite books of 2021 or 2022. It made like my top 10 of that, whatever year that we read it or it came out. And so I am going to be continuing on with Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. The story with the first book, which is My Heart is a Chainsaw, I gave this 4 stars, or gave it 4 stars when I first read it. But the more that I thought about it, and the more that like I told people about it, and the more that I was like, you need to read this book if you like horror and you like really gross, gory stuff, and the more I thought about the way that the book was set up and how clever Stephen Graham Jones was in the way he set it up, I just was like, the way I'm talking about this the way I talk about Percy Jackson, which means that it's probably a 5-star book. But I'm very excited because the thing about My Heart is a Chainsaw that was so exciting to me was the way that Stephen Graham Jones was able to take our main character's thoughts on horror movies and make me as someone who is not a horror, like I've not seen a single horror movie in my life. I wasn't allowed to watch them as a kid and I never got into them. But the way that he worked these horror movies into the plot and the way that he used this kind of dual narrative where you have what's happening to our main character in the moment and then these essays that she is writing for school where she's dissecting these horror movies, it made what he was trying to get from them so accessible. I don't know if this is something that like the big horror fans are gonna love, but I loved it. So roll 3, we're gonna do next. Let's see what that is. I am not making much. I'm gonna be here for forever. Ooh. Cryptid sighting. I can work with that. I have plans, and they do happen to involve what could be considered a cryptid. Rule number 3 was cryptid sighting, and Leandra did say that we could stretch the meaning of the word cryptid a little bit, so I figured I would go back to the beginning. I would go back to some of the original, what you could say were cryptids, and read books that re-examine them. And I decided to put Percy Jackson and the Olympians #1, The Lightning Thief, on this TBR. I have been wanting to reread this series since the show was announced. This will be the first time that I am rereading this since I realized that I probably have ADHD. And so much of my experience and why I love this series the first time, so much of why I connected so much with Annabeth the first time, makes so much sense now. I used to tell people that I was basically Annabeth Chase, but without the ADHD. And the universe laughed at me. This was, always will be, one of my favorite series. I love the way that Rick is able to reimagine the Greek myths and retell them in a way that I feel is very accessible to newer audiences. I was a Greek mythology girly growing up. I'm just excited to like re-experience this book and be able to reread it with more knowledge about myself and more knowledge about why Percy is so relatable. Let's roll again. And maybe get something higher than the 3. Otherwise, we're going to be here all day, and I don't want 75 books on my TBR. Oh, thank you. The TBR gods were kind to me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that brings us to most recent pub date. Rule number 4 was the most recently published book that I have currently on my physical TBR. That was kind of an easy one because there were only 2 books, and the one that is going to get this beats it out by, like, I think a week. I think they are a week apart. The one thing that we run into is I did want to reread the entire original series before I read this book, and so that means that this is not a 1-book roll, it's a 4-book roll. So what's going to happen is that before I can get to the book, I will be reading A Darker Shade of Magic, A Gathering of Shadows, and A Conjuring of Light, before finally, oh my god, there's so many books, getting to Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. I have no idea what this book is about, besides the fact that I know it's a continuation of the original series. So let's talk about the original series. One of my favorite, like, fantasy series of all time. It lives on the shelf next to The Cruel Prince for a reason. I spiritually identify with Lila Bart. We are the same kind. We're both very annoying. This is following Kel and Lila in the first book, and they live in 2 different Londons, because in this world, there are actually 4 worlds, and they all are connected by the different Londons. There are people, Kel being one of them, that are able to travel between the different Londons. He lives in Red London, Lila lives in Grey London, which is our world, and then there's also White London, and there is Black London. What ends up happening is Kel is a little bit of a kleptomaniac, and so he steals something on his most recent visit to White London and brings it into Grey London. But the thing is that it's a bad magic that should not have crossed through the barriers, and it unleashes some things. Lila gets caught up in the crosshairs of that, and when she realizes what Kel is able to do, that he is able to travel between these different Londons, she's like, "You're taking me with you." And he's like, "No, that's not possible." And she's like, "The fuck it isn't," and ends up going into Red London with him. I love them so much. Lila is a very good test on how people are doing with their internalized misogyny. People hate Lila. I don't understand it, because they'll be like, "I hate Lila Barr because XYZ, blah, 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 blah." And I'll be like, but you love Kaz Brecker. It's like that meme from The Office where they're like, "It's the same picture." The exact same traits that everyone loves in Kaz are the same traits that they demonize for Lila. Think about that. Roll 5. 2. Okay. For roll number 5, I ended up landing on science fiction, which is something that, it's very odd. I love science fiction with my whole heart. Like, some of my best memories as a child involve Star Wars and Star Trek. And yet, somehow, I never read it. One of my favorite series of all time is Leviathan, the Expanse series. And yet, that's pretty much the only science fiction that I've read recently. One of my goals for 2024, I am saying now, is going to be reading more science fiction. Remember that, Margaret, when you're making your goals video, please. Thank you. I have a science fiction book. It is the only science fiction book on my entire TBR at this point. Long story short, I'm going to be reading Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I still want to know, is he related to that Tchaikovsky? I have no idea what this is about. This was sent to me in a promotional, like a box that I won because this was coming out. Very interesting that they sent me this, which was a science fiction, but there were no other science fiction books in that box. Let's see. War for humanity's survival is over. Its heroes forgotten. But one chance discovery will destroy everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. I mean, I just saw the graphic of the sun moving through space with all of us moving around it, and that changed everything I knew about our place in the universe. Okay, we've got a main character named Idris. He has not, okay, they remade him in the war. He has not aged or slept since. He used to be a hero fighting elite. I have read more science fiction. I read the Murderbot Diaries. What the heck, Margaret? Basically, there was an alien race known as the Architects, and our main character was specifically created, genetically engineered, technologically enhanced so that he would be able to fight against them, him and others like him. However, it's been 50 years since they've seen the Architects, and so he and his kind of like just, what's going on? What do we do? Until they end up finding something very strange and abandoned. This is giving me Leviathan Wakes vibes. It's clearly the work of the Architects, but are they returning, and if so, why? Hunted by gangs, cults, and governments, Idris and his crew race across the galaxy hunting for answers, for they now possess something of incalculable value that many would kill to obtain. This is the plot of Leviathan Wakes. I should enjoy this. Also, because his name is Idris, I am going to be picturing Idris Elba for the entirety of this book. I couldn't see it, so I'm gonna reroll, because I feel like it's only fair for me to reroll. Although, I don't know. Anyways, you didn't see it, so we're going to do fudge. Okay. 1, 2. Okay, so 2 is child protagonist. We could have been done here. I should have just gone with the 5. For roll 6, we got child protagonist, and I decided that it was time to finally buckle down and read some stuff from one of my favorite authors, and that is Ghost by Jason... Yeah, it's Jason Reynolds. I read The Boy in the Black Suit by Jason Reynolds and absolutely loved it. It is just such a fantastic look at grief. This is his middle grade series, and I believe it is about a track team, as you can see on the cover right here. Let's see. Running. That's all that Ghost, real name Castle Cranshaw, has ever known. Interesting. This is the second time I've seen a character named Castle as a main character. At least Castle's parents spelled it the right way. The other Castle, I don't know what his mom was thinking. When Ghost impulsively challenges an elite sprinter to a race and wins, the Olympic medalist track coach sees he has something. Crazy natural talent. Thing is, Ghost has something else, a lot of anger, and a past that he tries to outrun. Can Ghost harness his raw talent for speed and meld with the team, or will his past finally catch up to him? So it sounds like this is going to be a lot about processing trauma, processing life events, processing things as a young boy, or as a preteen, early teenager. And I am very interested to see what this is about. I picked this up, I don't even remember what her name is. She's Mrs. Dunreads now, but I picked this up on her recommendation. This sounded so good the way that she spoke about it, and I wanted to check it out. We're on roll 7. Boom. Okay. I get to roll again. So I've got to roll again and go back however many spaces I roll. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. 3. Got to go back 3 spaces. Because I've already been to sci-fi, I think I'm going to go back this way. we are going to go to a chonky hardback. I can do that. I have quite a few chonky hardbacks. I think I can work with that. For Rule 7, we got a chonky hardback, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Margaret, you've been saying you're going to read Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare for forever. And I say no. There's already a lot of books that are super chonky on this list, so I decided to go with one that was, like, not the chonkiest book on my TBR, but still a pretty hefty tome, and that is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I've loved... What have I read by R.F. Kuang? I've read The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. That's it. That's all I've read. I thought I'd read other books by her, but no, apparently I haven't. I'm realizing that now. But I have Babel, and I am very interested to read this. This is a dark academia book about language. I believe it is about, like, our main protagonist is coming... Like, it sounds like it's set up in a British university, like Oxford, something like that, or like a fantasy equivalent to that. And then I believe the main character is coming from one of the British colonies, or the fantasy equivalent of a British colony, and he is helping to translate his country's language into English. And so a lot of it is about what is lost in translation, and also about kind of the way that academia looks at languages that are not Romance languages. See if we can finish this thing. 6. Okay, 6. Does that get me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Ah! Done! So many books. So many. They're so heavy. I definitely need to work on my upper body strength more. Here's everything that I'm going to be reading in the month of January, hopefully. I hope. I want to. I mean, there was a time where this would have been a short TBR for me. And I will be very impressed if I can even get to half of these, I'll be honest. I'm very excited. I am very excited about this, though, because there are a lot of books on here that I'm very, like, how many times can I say excited? There are a lot of books on here that I have been looking forward to for a very long time, and I'm glad that I'm actually, like, sitting down and taking the time to get to these books. And so I am going to have a very good time with this TBR. If you are just now hearing about TBRathon, please go check it out. Leandra has created this really fun readathon. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and also consider hitting the subscribe button if you've been watching more than one of my videos, or you can check out over here some videos. Here is my most recent video, and this is one that YouTube thinks you should watch. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!